I used to believe there was nothing in this world stronger than the love my husband and I shared. It wasn't the kind of love people envied because it was dramatic. They envied it because it was steady. We grew up together. From creating childhood memories to becoming adults, we quietly became each other's home. There was never a time I questioned where I stood with him. If he missed me, he said it. If he was proud of me, everyone around us knew it. He was the kind of man who sensed when I was having a hard day before I even opened my mouth. Loving me came naturally to him, and he was loud about it. The first few years were everything we had dreamed about. Our marriage was beautiful. Then I became pregnant. It should have been the happiest season of our lives. Instead, it became the beginning of the end. I started noticing some things I never thought could happen in our marriage. At first, the changes were small. So small that I convinced myself I was imagining them. My husband was changing. He started staying at work a little longer. He became quieter. Not only that, but he stopped reaching for my hand without thinking, and the little kisses on my forehead disappeared. I made excuses for him. So many excuses. Maybe work was stressful. Maybe becoming a father was overwhelming. Maybe I was just emotional because of the pregnancy. But by the time I was 6 months along, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. The man who used to find every reason to be near me was now finding every reason to stay away. I tried everything. I planned quiet evenings. I cooked his favorite meals. I cried alone before asking him again, hoping he would finally tell me what had changed. But every attempt ended the same way: more distance, more silence, or an argument that somehow left me apologizing for asking why my own husband no longer looked at me the way he used to. I was hurt. He knew how much I loved him, yet he hurt me so. The confusion hurt more than anger ever could. You can survive knowing someone stopped loving you. It's much harder to survive not knowing why. I even went to his parents, not to complain, not even to embarrass him, but because I thought maybe they knew something I didn't. They spoke to him, but still nothing changed. By the last trimester, I had stopped asking as many questions. It was not because I found my answers, but because I was running out of strength. I told myself everything would go back to normal once our baby arrived. People always said becoming parents changed everything. I hoped they were right. I gave birth to our daughter believing she would bring us back together. She didn't. He became even more distant. He barely looked at me and even barely looked at her. There were nights I stayed awake holding our newborn, wondering if I had imagined the man I married. The loneliness after childbirth is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. That was my first experience of motherhood. But I knew it would have been easier if my husband had acted his part as a father. 4 months passed, then 5. I eventually stopped waiting for him to notice us. I learned how to comfort our daughter without expecting him to help. I learned how to celebrate her little milestones alone. Around the time she turned 6 months old, something changed. She had become the kind of baby everyone adored. Neighbors found reasons to stop by just to see her smile. Family members competed to hold her. Strangers would wave at her and walk away smiling. She lit up every room she entered. And suddenly, my husband came back. He started sitting closer to me again. He asked about my day, tried helping around the house. He even reached for conversations that should have happened months earlier. Most of all, he wanted to hold our daughter. Only she wanted nothing to do with him. Every time he picked her up, she burst into the kind of tears that made her tiny body shake, reaching desperately for me until I took her back. Just seeing his face was enough to set her off. None of us understood it. And while he struggled to earn our daughter's trust, he didn't realize something else had quietly slipped away. Mine. By then, I had already learned how to survive without his love. Something shifted again. I don't know exactly when I became the problem. It happened slowly, the way most things I didn't see coming happened in my marriage. One phone call here, one careful conversation there, and suddenly the story everyone around us believed was that my husband was trying to save his family, and I was a proud wife. His mother called me first. She was kind about it. The way women are when they've already made up their mind but want to appear neutral. She said she could see he was making an effort. She said a marriage needed two people to work and our daughter needed a stable home. I listened to everything she said and told her she was right. Because she just didn't have the full picture. My friend also came over one afternoon under the pretense of checking on me. Within 20 minutes, she was telling me that I needed to let whatever I was holding on to go. That men showed remorse differently. That I should think about what I was teaching my daughter by keeping her father at a distance. I sat there and nodded, saying nothing. Even my own mother, the woman who held me while I cried during the months he had gone cold, started to shift. She had seen his effort. She told me quietly that she thought I should try. Nobody was wrong. Exactly. That was the thing that made it so hard to carry. They were all looking at who he was now. None of them had been there for who he had been during my pregnancy. I had no way to explain myself without explaining him, and I was not ready to do that. Maybe I was protecting him. Maybe I was protecting myself from having to say it out loud and make it more real than it already was. Either way, I stayed quiet and let people draw their own conclusions. So I became the cold wife, the difficult one, the woman who didn't know how to receive a good man when he was standing right in front of her. I let them think it. I was too tired to argue with a version of events I didn't create. He kept trying to get closer to me and our daughter, trying different methods, but I was not interested, and for some reason, neither was our daughter. It hurt seeing his daughter reject him, but I couldn't bring myself to feel bad for long. Eventually, he ran out of options and came to explain himself. To tell me the reason he had almost destroyed our marriage with his silence. He said someone had told him something during my pregnancy. He didn't say who. He said it got into his head and he couldn't shake it. He said he started looking at me differently, started questioning things he had never questioned before. And the more he tried to push the thought away, the more it stayed. So instead of coming to me, instead of asking me a single question, he went silent. He withdrew. He watched me plan dinners he barely touched and cook meals he didn't acknowledge and beg him to talk to me, and he said nothing. He sat across from me in that same house while I was carrying his child and said nothing. He saved money without me knowing. Arranged everything quietly. Waited until our daughter was born and old enough for a DNA test to be done properly. Then he sent it off and waited some more. When the results came back, she was his. He said it like that part was supposed to fix everything. He had already decided what kind of woman I was. He had already chosen doubt over 12 years of knowing me. He said he was sorry. He said it more than once. He keeps showing up. Every single day, in small ways that would have meant everything to me a year earlier. He wakes up with our daughter when she cries at night. He makes sure I eat. He remembers things I mention once without thinking. He pays attention the way he used to, maybe even more carefully now, like a man who knows he is working with very little margin left. I watch all of it and remember how it used to be. Now I don't know what to do. I'm worried that if I let him back in, I'm betraying the version of me that survived without him. But I'm also worried that if I don't, I'm throwing away something that most people never even get to have. I don't have an answer. That's why I'm here. What should I do? I am confused.